on behalf of the Institute for Leadership and Strategic Foresight, welcome to So You Want to Be the Chief, a podcast for leaders.
One of the great things about technology is that we can talk to people and meet people that we wouldn't normally meet because of the distance that we're from. And that's the case today. I have Chief Master Sergeant Carlos Sanchez, who is from Connecticut. Sanchez from Connecticut. That doesn't make sense, brother.
So I tried to do the historical kind of like lineage tracking of, how did Sanchez end up in Connecticut? And I just got further confused. So I just kind of left it. It just is. Yeah, born and raised in Norwalk, Connecticut, literally. So the name of the hospital that I was born in is called the Norwalk Hospital.
Okay.
And I graduated high school, and the name of the high school was Norwalk High School.
So one of those little dinky towns, huh?
Yeah. No, actually, there were plenty of schools in the town that had names, and there were other hospitals in the town that had names. But the one that I was in was Norwalk Hospital and Norwalk High School. So it's just
it makes life simple.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it makes it easy to remember.
Yeah. Now, how long have you been a chief?
So let's see. I think almost 2 years now.
Okay, so fairly young. And I'm sure you've had a great time of it. So excuse me. You just finished being a fellow in the White House of some sort. So you got selected to, and you found out about it while you were in the White House. Is that right? Did the president come over and say?
No, the U.S. Capitol. No, the U.S. Capitol.
Oh, Congress. At the Capitol is different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So a little different. Yeah. Well, so it's personal passion of mine. I love politics, government, U.S. history. So when I knew about this program, the fellowship program, but I didn't know that enlisted were allowed to participate in it.
Yeah.
And so when I found out at the time they were allowing E8s to apply to the program, I pretty much set out to I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So figuring out who was already in the program, finding that mentorship and development, like, hey, how can I put in a good package to get accepted in this program? And I did, and I absolutely loved it. Just got done doing 3 years of it.
Yeah, well, good for you. Great experience, I'm sure. I applied for the White House Fellowship in 1979, believe it or not. They didn't accept me, but I thought, well, why not? Like you said, it's available. Let me try and see what happens. But and congratulations on that. You make us all proud that you didn't get fired or anything like that, did you?
No, I didn't. Okay. I would still be there to this day if I could, but it's a 3-year program. The Air Force makes that investment to, hey, we're going to kind of send you out there to learn the legislative process, as well as then you come back to the Pentagon and you help fill the legislative aid or legislative assistant offices for the Air Force, OSD, Joint Staff. I was in Joint Staff for 1.5 years. And then kind of help our strategic leaders, after understanding what Congress does, how they talk and network, kind of helping our strategic leaders kind of get after what they need to, whether it's helping with policies to help national security or Department of Defense budget. How do we best advocate for the things we need to get after the future fight?
Yeah, wow, sounds exciting. And now you're back in at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. Okay,
that's right.
Where normally it's a dry heat, but you're talking about what, 50s right now, the temperature?
50s. We are freezing right now. It's 50s. The heat is on full blast if you even have heat. So we're freezing here. It is Phoenix cold.
Yeah, you'll get used to it. And as you were telling me before we started, you're an EOD chief.
That's right. Yeah. Explosive Ordnance Disposal. So I've been doing it since I joined the Air Force, right out of basic training, went to NAV school, EOD, and then been doing it for over 21 years. So absolutely love the experiences, the people I've met, and the things that I've gotten to do. So the Air Force has been really good to me.
Yeah. Well, EOD is a blast, man. Come on, somebody had to say it. Someone had to say it. Okay. Yeah.
I've done that before.
Okay. Anyway, get out of the way, Chief. Chief, get out of the way. Come on, get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, so no, I appreciate it.
Sorry?
I appreciate when you sent me the different chapters and asked, hey, which one do you like to get after? I was like, oh, let me see which one you have. I saw the names to it, and sorry, let me read a little bit about it. But then I saw get out of the way, and that just rang so true. To kind of what I've been. Almost kind of my mantra as well. It kind of just echoed, this is something I'd like to talk about. So I think every chief, every supervisor should have that mentality of get out of the way.
Yeah, but Chief, I was a chief for a long time, and again, my perspective is I'll never not be a chief, but it's so easy to do it yourself. You get that youngster in that's they just went to tech school and but they don't have any experience. Move out of the way so I can do it for you because I can do it a lot faster.
My specific career field, is explosive ordnance disposal. We, obviously it's a very dangerous career field. I came up during, global war and terrorism. So we were in Iraq and Afghanistan disarming IEDs. Our unofficial motto is initial success or total failure. We are kind of, put that bar high on like, you are expected to know this and do what you need to because yours and other lives are on the line. And so, as you train as an EOD tech and you become, very technically proficient, you want to be the best EOD tech in the room because you want to save lives. But then as you become an NCO, now you're training, your airmen. But at the same time, you are the team leader. You are the most technically proficient person, right? What is a technical sergeant, but the most technical person in that career field? So it's a very hard adjustment mentally to then say, I want to, like you said, get out of the way and then train the future generation to be better than I am. And my passion in EOD has always been in EOD training to train the rest of the flight in what we're required to do, and then also mentoring those airmen. And it's always been something that I've kind of told my subordinates, now as a flight chief, kind of empower my training section. I want you to train these airmen to be better EOD techs than we ever were or ever will be. Because one, like you said, it's so easy for me with my experience to I'll just do it myself.
Yeah.
But we can't do that. It's not scalable to what is required of the United States military. Just our senior leaders will take care of it, and that's it. I mean, if you look at the Ukraine-Russia war, and sorry, I'll pass. I'll pass it on to you. I don't want to like keep
No, that's okay. Go ahead. The Ukraine-Russia.
Oh yeah. So if you look at the Ukraine-Russia war, the one big thing, or I wouldn't say one, but one of many big things that we're kind of learning out of there is how Ukraine military, which has been helped by the U.S. military for a couple decades now, is using and relying on their NCO core, that decentralization of that authority down to their lower ranks. While on the Russian military, it's so centralized to where their generals are having to be in the front lines of the battlefield and actually getting assassinated because they're actually out there in combat, because those are the only ones allowed to give orders in the Russian military. Yeah. But it's that mentality that like that general or that senior leader knows everything and all you know nothing. So one, you create this like, well, you're the only one that can tell me what to do. But then also you're never going to create an environment where your subordinates or the younger generation wants to attain or be better in the future because, well, I'll just wait for the general to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And so we really need to rethink this. And that's why I said like the chapter, this get out of the way. It's been a passion of mine. We do need to get out of the way as Chief Master Sergeants, allow our subordinates, teach them how to lead because, we're going to hang it up one day, right? Yes, we're always a chief, but not always a chief in uniform. Right. And we need to make chiefs in the future that are even better than what we've ever done.
Yeah. And my sense is, Chief, that as we do this, we sometimes we use the word empowerment, which I have my own perspective on that. But as we help our followers empower themselves to be as good as they can be, that develops trust, doesn't it? I mean, you as a chief can trust them, especially in the business that you're in, that they can do the job and not get killed themselves and not get anybody else killed. And also those youngsters can feel trustworthy, and they trust the chief because the chief trusts me. it's a mutual thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and absolutely. And even for that person, just internal validation that they can do it themselves, right? It's so easy to just be dependable on your supervisor or your senior leader. It's like, oh, they'll help me get it done. But then knowing, right? Like, so now you get empowered, right? But then there's that other step. Now that there's that validation because you did do it. So there's that validation. It's like, wow, I can actually do it and be trusted to get this done. And then it's almost a confidence booster. Then all right, I want more now. Let me get out there. What's the next task? What like that I can now lead, right? So it's that validation, and then they're off and running to the races.
My generation and pretty much every generation, I think, Chief, of chiefs have always said this next one is way smarter than we ever were. And you're a fairly young one, so do you think that and I hope that you're already priming some of your NCOs and senior NCOs to become a chief, or at least give them the opportunity, right? Because you can't make it for them; they got to do it themselves. But you can set them up for success. But is that is that part of your culture or our culture as chiefs that we empower them that way?
Yeah, and like you said, I believe that the next generation is a lot smarter and more capable for what is required of us in future conflicts. Mainly because technology is becoming more and more ubiquitous in combat, and this new generation, or at least the generation that's coming up now, right? Our airmen, our young NCOs, a lot of this technology is native to them. We didn't have tablets, coming into the military. That was like a new thing. Like our screens are now flat. They used to be this huge, wide, screen. Artificial intelligence. Senior leaders hear that and they're like, I have no idea what I'm talking, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But the younger generation actually can grasp it a lot easier and quicker. And then because they're able to, now we need to empower them to innovate, because they know how to use this better. They know how to harness that technology to either complete mission objectives or innovate new ways of warfighting at all levels, right? I'm not talking like warheads on foreheads type warfighting, but all levels of warfighting. You completing your mission objectives in the profession of arms is warfighting. I strongly believe that. Every pencil pusher in the United States Air Force, United States military, is a warfighter because they are a member of the profession of arms.
Well, everyone, in my day, I came in 1972. I don't guess you were even born yet. Maybe your parents weren't even born yet. But in 1972, we had so many people, Chief, believe it or not, and this is the truth. We had so many people that we hid them. That we when this is 72, right after the war, the Vietnam War. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with all of these people, and we haven't gotten rid of them yet. So we're hiding them because I guess there's power in numbers. I don't know why the commanders would do that, but nonetheless they did that. And now my gut tells me that we barely have enough people to do the job. In some places we don't even have the enough people to do the job. We still get it done because we're American warriors, but every person, whatever it is, like you say, a pencil pusher, a staple pusher, we need you throughout the military, but in the Air Force in particular, or else we wouldn't have you there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's not changing, right? We're having a harder time recruiting. We're doing really well with retaining our talent, but with recruiting our next generation. But then even technology, we need to be honest with ourselves that certain things that required a large amount of manpower no longer. Either one, it's fully automated, or we harness technology to help us do those things. So that we need to kind of use that, because our global requirements of what's needed for the Department of Defense is only growing. Right? You just turn on the news and you'll see we're needed pretty much everywhere. But our manpower is at decades low. It hasn't been this low probably since before we entered World War II and really ramped up the draft. And it's going to continue going in that direction. So we need those ideas. Going back to this, we need to get out of the way as Chief Master Sergeants and kind of harness the talent that we have internally to kind of rethink how we do things, how we, meet those mission objectives, but then empower them to, because once we hang it up, you need to keep going, right? I'm sure the day that I retire out of the Air Force, which will be a sad day because this is all I know as an adult. The day that I retire, right, it's going to be a nice ceremony. I'm sure it's going to be a great time. A little shadow box, maybe some cake and some refreshments. But the next day, I expect that they're not even going to bat an eye. They're just going to get back to work. All right. That train is just going to keep moving. There's not going to be this continued pause of like, oh, poor Chief Sanchez is gone. What do we do? No. It's like I wasn't even there. Like you just keep going. That's what's expected. We're going to need that. All right. There's no time to take a knee.
Yeah. And as you mentioned that, and I don't know that this happens anymore, but and I think the chapter starts with, in my day, we used to say in our perspective as senior NCOs, particularly chiefs, was you got to work yourself out of a job. And by that, we meant you have to prepare the next people. Again, you're not the one that promotes anybody, but there are in your shop, I don't know, 2 or 3 people that are probably in line to become chiefs and to replace you. But if you're a good chief, I think it's incumbent upon you, us, all of us, to make sure that those people are prepared. I often see, unfortunately, and this is just my perspective, on social media right around the January, February timeframe, that the new chiefs, because they just in November the list came out, and now they start putting it on, and I see these posts of people, brand new chiefs, that say, "I have no idea what to do." And I think, wow, that would never have happened in my generation, because when I was I don't want to boast, but I was a chief before I became a chief. The chiefs took me under their wing. They made me do the thing. And sometimes, no kidding, brother, they made me do the stuff that I didn't want to do, but that a chief does, to be prepared for it. So that the day I put it on, I was ready. I knew what a chief did. I knew, not necessarily where to do it, but I knew what to do. And my sense is a lot of times the youngsters are, they're just starting to learn to be a chief. We need to do that before they get there, so that they want that. Exactly right. The day that you're out, the next day, another chief Sanchez takes over, and we just keep going.
Yeah, and hopefully better and faster than when I was in here. And yeah, I've heard that before. Like, man, am I ready for this? Or even when you get selected, it's like, did I really deserve this, or did I earn this? And I think that's partly generational. Like we're more apt to discussing like how we feel, and I think it's whether it's imposter syndrome or like there's so many great airmen in this Air Force, and like I got selected to be a Chief Master Sergeant. Like, did they read the records right? But then also, this is that quick little, like, you put on the chief stripe and you're like, wow, am I ready for this? We do need to develop them. But then also, you give them that push. It's like, all right, you got it. Like, here's your first task, and you go. And then we trust, because we put that investment ahead of time. We trust that, yes, there is that little hesitation, that first step off the ledge, but then trust that, like, hey, my parachute's packed, and we're gonna have a great free fall right here. That's what we should aim to be as Chief Master Sergeants, to get out of the way and get ready for those Chief Master Sergeants, so that when the next day happens and they're asking like, oh, am I ready for this? And it's like, you got this. And then when they start getting those objectives accomplished and they start using that chief stripe responsibly, and they realize, like, yeah, I got this because Chief Master Sergeant so-and-so got out of the way and taught me what to do. Yeah. It becomes instinctual, right? Almost muscle memory.
In my sense, I'm a little bit older than you, by the way, just so you know. I know you're saying no way, but just a little bit. Yeah. I think you have to be intentional about that, Chief. Like I say, we barely have enough people to do the job, I think, if we do. And now you're adding more development, personal development, professional development that you have to do with your airmen, your successors and all that. But if you don't do it, it's going to go down fast. I imagine. I mean, in your field, you have so much technical expertise, even as a chief, which is, I'm sure, is important. But those youngsters have it as well too, right? Because they're the ones that actually go out and do whatever you're supposed to do to the bomb and all that.
Correct. Yeah, and I mean, you have to as a chief master sergeant, like now you have to continue to network laterally, so with other chiefs, because that chief network is powerful. Like if you need things done, just reaching across the way with other chiefs gets a lot. But then you also have to then look down and then create that environment to where kind of cultivate that next generation of excellence. Um, uh, whether it's the airmen or even our NCOs. I don't want to just talk about the airmen. The NCOs, they need development. Even our senior master sergeants, like, hey, if you want to be a chief, this is what's expected of you. Hold them accountable. But then also, you even in my career field, even though I said initial success or total failure, you need to give some room of acceptable failure. So that they can learn. And that's what we do in our training ops. We'll do training ops where, you put, a little fake IED with a buzzard in it. And then if you mess up, it'll go beep, or, make a really loud noise to the side, but, you're safe. And then, have that kind of feedback, afterwards, that hot wash, as we call it, and discuss, hey, these are the things that you mess up. Even as a leader, give them that ability to make those mistakes, but then be responsible, hold them accountable, give them the feedback that they need to grow as future leaders.
My sense is that sometimes we forget to ask the right questions, Chief. And again, we're going toward get out of the way, but you're going to do that more easily, I think, if you ask the question, what do you know? We assume, right? I've been there, done that, been sent to school, to classes, to courses and all that stuff. And the assumption is that I learned something. Well, you remember back in basic training, what some assuming does to you and me, because I may or may have not learned. And I think it's, again, I'm thinking about the EOD profession in itself. You can't just send someone. You have you're going to assume that they know what to do. But that assumption, again, may be wrong if you don't ask them, what do you know? And my sense is that the youngsters are going to tell you. I think they're pretty honest people. They'll tell you, I have no idea, Chief. Or the worst thing is, yeah, I got it, and go out there and screw it up, because obviously there's a huge risk in what you do.
Yeah, no, I agree. It goes both ways, right? So you as the supervisor, the leader, looking at your subordinate, and you assume, right? Well, if you're here, then you obviously made it through the school, or you got the upgrade training, so you're this rank, so you must be at this commensurate skill level. So you assume they know it, and then on the other side, the subordinate doesn't want to tell the leader, like, oh, I don't know something, right? Because you're supposed to be technically competent at where you're at. So you have that kind of like, that, I guess, that frozen middle in that case. But then, so that needs to be the trust but verify validation from the leader. It's like, be honest, like, hey, do you know this stuff? Or I don't want to insult your intelligence, but I just want to kind of get a baseline of where you're at and be honest with me. And then, be okay with an airman coming up to you and saying like, hey, boss, I don't know this stuff, or I need help. So it's breaking through that. But yeah, these assumptions in both directions really isn't helpful.
And in your field, probably more than some others, that's developed through developing trust among each other, and you better have that.
Yeah, because the last thing you would want to do is to send someone down to handle explosives, and they don't know how to handle that or to handle the situation that has explosives. But you assumed because, you made it through EOD school, so you should know. And then that EOD tech doesn't want to let their leaders or their peers down and say, I don't want to be that guy that says they don't know, so I'll just stay quiet, right? And then I'll figure it out. Yeah. We don't have room to, sometimes to do that. So yeah, it's definitely something you have to constantly be looking at, like, where are my vulnerabilities as an organization, and then also just amongst my different people.
We have a few more minutes before we finish out here, Chief. What's your best advice for a new chief? Being a fairly new chief, I mean, you still remember what it was like to become a new chief. What's the best advice you can give someone who just put that stripe on? or is about to put it on?
Network. Relationships matter. That is, I got that from Congress as a congressional staffer. Probably the most important rule on the Hill is relationships matter. It's who you know. So obviously at a congressional level, right? You're trying to pass bills. You're trying to get support for bills. But those doors open not because of like your name on the wall or reputation. Well, reputation on the relationship that you have with others. To be able to pick up that phone call and talk to others. And something I learned very big in that we don't do a lot in the military, but it's almost like a physical reminder for those relationships is business cards, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't have business. We don't do business cards in the military. But on Capitol Hill, it's almost a form of salutation. Like when you introduce yourself to someone new, regardless of who they are, whether it's a constituent, a fellow congressional staffer, a lobbyist, whoever it is, like, hello, I'm Carlos Sanchez, and then you hand them a business card, right? So you learn that, right? So they, the office would get you a bunch of business cards, but then you quickly realize like that the business card is because you're establishing that baseline relationship. Here's my contact info. We're gonna now have a conversation. Let's further this relationship. Because relationships matter. And so I kind of kept that. And I think I'm probably the only Chief Master Sergeant on Luke Air Force Base that has their own business card because I kept it going. I updated the business card, but I still have that because when people ask like, oh, can I look you up on the Globe or something? And so it's like, no, here's my business card, and then just kind of set that pace. And it's also my reminder that relationships matter. As a Chief Master Sergeant, you can best serve your organization by tapping into other organizations, whether it's lateral organizations, other squadrons, or other groups across the installation, whether it's up, knowing people at MAGCOM, knowing people at COCOMs as well, or even all the way up to the Pentagon, that you can call and get that actual feedback or guidance that you need to best affect your mission. But even the relationships that you have with your subordinates. I think a lot in the past decade, supervisors have really honed in on emotional intelligence, and it's being able to kind of understand the human behavior within your organization, your airmen, and then being able to ask the right questions, being able to open up to someone is not very easy, right? We want to be very private people, even though we're social, I guess humans, but having that relationship with your subordinates, because you've established that relationship, you've nurtured it to where it's a trusting environment. That airman probably, had you not invested in that over the long term, would probably not have brought up certain situations that are deeply private, but that you have within your power to either help or get them the appropriate resources that potentially save their lives, whether it's preventing a suicide or a really burdening financial situation at home. But because relationships matter, even as a Chief Master Sergeant to your airmen, that airman feels comfortable coming up to me like, Chief, I've got a problem, and they trust you that you're there to help.
Yeah. And once you've done that, once you've helped them to empower themselves, get out of the way.
That's right. Hand your business card off. And then realize that the next generation, they've got it, because that's what's expected of them.
Well, we're going to find out how many folks on your base listen to this and watch this podcast, Chief, when you look around and everybody's handing out business cards, or not.
There you go. Yeah, we'll see.
Chief Carlos Sanchez, thank you so much, sir, for your service, for what you've been doing up on the Hill and everything. It's probably quieter in Arizona, isn't it?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, although our F-35s make great noise. We're producing the best fighter pilots and combat ready airmen. That's our mission statement, and it holds true every day. They're up there making a great show of it.
Yep, the sound of freedom.
Oh, that's right. It sounds beautiful.
Yep. Well, again, thank you very much. Good luck with your. Now, let me ask you: Are you going to stay there for a while, or are you about ready to retire? What do you think?
So I've been here about 6 months, and so obviously, chiefs they like to shuffle us around at the 2-year mark. So we'll see. I've enjoyed this ride. I've got aspirations to continue this ride just because I love the Air Force. I loved everything that it's given me and the experiences and opportunities. But I also have a family. And so, that family, I've taken them a lot of different bases, and I think they're also kind of wanting to slow things down. So we'll see. It's a TBD.
All right. Well, we'll be looking out for you on a ballot here or there somewhere.
All right. There you go. Hey, vote for me.
God bless you, brother.
All right. Take care.